Ladies and gentlemen, the US-China trade war has come to a ceasefire and the stock market has just gone up and up and up. And I think in soon to come, we're probably going to see some new record high, even though the problems are not all over. But why the market is behaving this way and what do we expect? Today, I know my title is a bit very intriguing, but let me share some of the lessons learned from what I'm going to share with you. So the title today is 1 million again. And what do I mean by that? I think there are a lot of lessons learned from this. And I want to share with you some of the emotions I've gone through in this whole turbulence. But I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from it. And these are my usual disclaimers. And let's go. So by the way, I'll be doing another live stream on bonds because I think the bonds market now is having a very interesting crash. And by the way, I just also discovered that there is an existence of a 9% return bond instrument. I'm happy to share and discuss this with you. Not telling you to buy or sell. More importantly, in order for you not to miss my live stream, please hit subscribe. Okay. And maybe also turn on the notification so that you don't miss it. So the S&P 500 yesterday has gone up by 0.7%, and so did the Nasdaq, went up by 1%. And very interestingly, the market is now behaving as if the whole problem of the world is over. Well, clearly the world's problem is not over yet, but it's very peculiar to see that the S&P 500 is approaching all-time high again, a bit too maturely. But that's how stock market behaves, right? So before we start to think that we have to wait until the coast is totally clear, markets don't behave that way. And that's why I was in a rush to quickly plow back some of the funds that I've taken out from leveraged positions, at least to unleveraged positions. And market is now going up and up and up. I would not be surprised if we break an all-time high again in time to come. Now, the world clearly has suddenly become a better place in like that. And it's not just about the trade war. Let me give you what are some of the things that are happening. And we should take a view on this. So first of all, on the Singapore economic outlook, suddenly with the US-China de-escalation in one weekend, the economic outlook of Singapore suddenly brightens. This is a view of analysts and economists. But of course, there's a lot of uncertainty remain over the tariffs. Now, I think it's important for me to emphasize that, just 1 month ago, things looked terribly gloomy and dark. And, the whole country voted to give Prime Minister Lawrence Wong a resounding support because of this very dangerous, gloomy outlook. And suddenly, in one weekend, everything has changed, right? So I think, things change rapidly and quickly. And of course, a lot of this, we gotta give the blame or credit to Donald Trump for causing all this. So the outlook for Singapore export-oriented economy has brightened up as China and US step back from a tariff war that could collapse straight between them and trigger a global recession. So it is China and US trade war that can cause a global recession. But seems like in one weekend they came to a ceasefire, and all seems to be good now. Of course, in 90 days' time, if nothing works out well, the whole thing could come back again. And another front, interestingly, Ukraine President Zelenskyy said that he will travel to Turkey's capital, Ankara, to meet Turkey's president, but will be available for direct talks with Vladimir Putin in Istanbul. He said we'll do everything to ensure this meeting takes place. So basically, he is now potentially going to meet Putin for a potential peace talk, or at least a ceasefire talk. And that's good, right? So, things have changed suddenly also on this front. So not just on the trade war, but also on the real war. And if the two countries can at least talk and come to some form of ceasefire, I think that will be very good for the rest of the world. Now, the chance of that happening is very low because both of them hated each other and both countries now hated each other. So many lives are lost and things like that on both sides. Well, we do hope some peace will happen, but if these peace would happen, I think there could be some some implication to financial market as well. Interestingly, India and Pakistan have came to a ceasefire, and a ceasefire very quickly as well. The whole of Pakistan is celebrating quite interestingly. Interestingly, Pakistan seems to celebrate more than India. That's a very interesting outcome. And why that happened actually has to do with something revolving around China as well. Let me tell a little bit of story as a digression. First of all, Donald Trump claimed credit for this peace agreement. He said that he managed to convince India and Pakistan to have peace, and say that he said that he has brokered a ceasefire between both countries. Now, Pakistan agreed that it was Trump who brokered. India disagreed. So I don't know who to believe in this kind of time, right? We all know that Trump tend to over-exaggerate things and things. But at least one of the party, Pakistan, recognized that it was Trump who contributed to this ceasefire. Well, we give him some credit. But the key story that is juicy is not about this ceasefire. It's about who won the war between Pakistan and India. Well, it was a very short skirmish, but fighter jets were used. But this is now traveling all over the Chinese media right now. Even music were made out of it. I wish I could show you some of this music. Very, very funny music made out of it, basically celebrating that the Chinese J-10C fighters were used in a dogfight against the French advanced Rafale fighters. So the French Rafale fighters were owned by India, and the Pakistan used the Chinese fighters. And in a fight, the Pakistan Air Force have shot down many Indian Rafale jets. And first of all, I think this is confirmed. The whole world is talking about it. And this basically one time where Chinese planes have shot down NATO planes in a wonderful demonstration of advanced Chinese technology. And by the way, this is the 4th gen fighters. They are not even the 5th gen fighters which the world is using right now. And so this is a very clear signal right now that Chinese technology are now leading the world against the Angmo fighters. So the Chinese social media is running lots of story and news. You just need to do a search on J-10C fighters. Everybody is talking about it. The whole Pakistan is celebrating as if they won the war. And this is quite an interesting development. In an interesting turn of event, inflation slowed down more than expected in April. And, this despite tariff pressures that's building up. And I think this will be a trend that everybody would love to see. It's difficult to see whether this thing is going to continue or not. So consumer price index rose 0.2%, bringing annual inflation to 2.3%, and unexpectedly cooler reading than the 2.4% seen in March. It is the lowest rate that's not to be seen since February 2021. And if we don't have this tariff issue, the whole world will be celebrating. My take is this. I actually think that because of this tariff war, a lot of suppliers brought in months, 3 to 6 months of goods and whatsoever. Suddenly there's a ceasefire. I know there's still a 30% goods. There's still a 30% tariff for Chinese goods coming into US. I think the Chinese and the importers know how to play with their invoices and things like that, so as to cushion some of this impact. But I'll just say this. If you are holding to a lot of goods in anticipation that there will be some shortage of goods, and suddenly now the channel did not break and can still import goods, you know what will happen? Everybody will be selling goods like nobody's business, in an attempt to clear unnecessary stock. So what I'm saying is that I think that it is equally high a chance that there's inflation, and there is also an equal chance that there will be a lot of people clearing stock, bringing prices down. So what I'm really thinking of is that it is not conclusive that now, because of the 1 weekend change, that there will be an inflation in the months to come. So we won't know until quite a few months later. I'm not surprised if it ever turns out, because of this sudden 1 weekend change, that prices actually stays the same. So this is the 1 million story that I want to talk about. So this is my Endowers portfolio. At a peak, it actually dropped quite significantly. It dropped way below $1 million, slightly above 900,000 and things like that. Okay, uh, and right now it has recovered back to 1 million. So what I'm trying to share with you is that throughout this whole process, first lesson learned is that I did not sell. But more importantly, is that I didn't even check this portfolio, and I'll talk about why, the reason why. Now, I also want to be open. I did fire a small shot. I did announce it during my live stream, which a lot of you will have the privilege of watching as well. I did fire a small shot, not enough. I of course I wish I fired more. I fired a small shot during the deep dive of April, and but now he has returned back above 1 million. I didn't check my wife's portfolio. It's good to see a 7-digit again in my Endowus account. I do have a cash account, but I think that's a bit more private. I will not talk about it. So this portfolio is majority CPF and some SRS. But I think there's some lessons to be learned from this. I want to share everybody. Personal reflection. This is not bragging. This is one to share with you where some of my reflections are. Number one is, how did I ride through this volatility is by not looking at the portfolio. So throughout this whole trade war from the start to the end, I did not look at my Endowus app at all. And this is important because the more I look at my portfolio, the more I'll be triggered to want to do something wrong, right? Emotional. And I also didn't look at my entire portfolio in cash as well. So I kept out of it and just keep myself as distant as possible. I don't watch the stock market because I'm involved in all this YouTubing and things like that. But at least I don't look at my portfolio and see how much has gone down. And of course, during the peak of the down, it went down really a lot. Not to mention that that it is something that I'm still a human as well. I'll be affected by it, right? So I think that it is possible for us to detach ourselves in this kind of volatility by not looking at it. So I'd like to remind everybody that as long as your funds are in globally diversified index, S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dimensional Fund, MSCI World Index, and many other globally diversified world index, they should be fine. And the other thing I also learned is that not all my portfolios are hit. Some assets are totally quite neutral to this whole thing. For example, in my entire CPF, absolutely zero volatility. And some of you have property which probably we have escaped this volatility as well, and so on, right? So I try to diversify across many assets as I can, and increasingly I'll diversify more of it as well. So this is probably more an announcement where I look and think moving forward. So right now there's a bond crash, which is very good because I like to buy in big crashes. The bond has crashed a lot and certainly have hit threshold that I like to go in big numbers. So I would like to be taking advantage of this bond crash to upstick my bonds, because my ratio of equities to bonds is too far apart. Okay. And I will do another live stream to share my thoughts, and let's all have a discussion. And there are commercial instruments out there that I discovered that is above 9% in the bond space, which surprised and shocked me. I've asked Ben to do a research on it. He came back with quite a lot of interesting discovery. And do hit subscribe. I'll try to do a live stream on it. I know I do live stream at very late hours because I got work to do and things like that. So please bear with me. Some of the live stream I can keep, some of the live stream I cannot keep the videos because they are market sensitive. And it can be construed as by people who are crybabies when they lose money and put blame on me. So I don't keep quite a bit of my live stream, but so try to keep up with me in my live stream and turn on your notification and hit subscribe. I would like to address some comments that are made also in my YouTube. I think there are a lot of lessons on this. So these are my views. a lot of people were very upset with me, claiming that Trump has gained a victory over this whole China-US trade war. And I've got people say, Trump victory, gosh, my foot. How can this be a victory for Trump? What victory? You call this a victory in the world, think otherwise, blah, 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 and things like that. I think I would like to share with everybody my thought again that, whether it's a victory or not, maybe it's just nomenclature. But more importantly is that this is a trade war that is invoked by Trump to bring down other trade wars. So from that perspective, if all their countries are now lowering their tariffs, this is what Trump really want to do. I'm not saying I like Trump, and neither am I saying Trump is a good guy, okay? But I think what he is doing in bringing down tariffs does bring a lot of value to US, okay? And if this continue in the long run, number one, you will bring in more revenue for government coffers. The budget deficit may be reduced. As a result, it's always good for the US government. Number two is that if the trade deficit were to reduce, that's also good for US companies as well. And, I think that, collectively, this one might bring some upside to the stock market over the medium to long run. So I'm not pro-Trump, I'm not anti-Trump. In this aspect, I'm just only pro-investment and money. So I'd like to see things from the eyes of an investor. So I think it's important for us to detach some of our emotions away from assessing some of these things. And this one is a very interesting comment. Did you mention you rebalance and hold cash last year end? Did you re-put back the cash to balance the portfolio? So if you recall, last year I did some profit taking and rebalancing. So I rebalanced back to cash, and since then I've been happily issuing $20,000 to me and my wife for dividends just to feel shook. So there, I think I see quite a decent sum, not a large sum. So basically what I did was that, if you recall the videos, I actually cleared some of my, I took out 30% of my profits, okay, which is roughly about 300K or so, okay? And then I deployed some money to some new businesses, So I consider that another form of rebalancing. Rebalance to private businesses is good. We have a new business that start up. And also, remaining part of it, I was putting in just slowly give some money to me and my wife over a month just to feel shook. But I think from that portfolio, after I cleared that, the trade war started, so I was quite surprised the trade war started. So I intended, if necessary, to deploy some of this back. I'll be frank with you, I didn't have enough chance. I deployed a bit, not a lot, so not shook enough. Of course, if I knew that Donald Trump would do this dramatic V-shaped U-turn, I would, of course, throw my house, my heirloom in and things like that, right? But I think what I've done is okay, in the sense that I waited for a big drop. It didn't happen. Keep this aside. Nothing wrong with holding cash. A bit was deployed, not enough. I wish I could deploy more, but I think I just want to be transparent with you guys. But throughout this whole trade war that started, I did not sell a single stock that is all my assets. As you can see, it go down and it back recover again. Last is some comments that are quite funny, okay? Someone's quite unhappy that about this man is very pro PAP. He brags about making millions of dollars. He shares some personality trait with Trump. I wish I'm as good as Trump, in the sense that, I may one day become US president. So jokes aside, I don't know why being pro PAP is an issue, right? So I actually told the person that, pro PAP is not an issue because I'm the same as 65% of the majority, right? So I actually don't think that's an issue. I'm not neutral. Let's just make it very clear. I don't know why everybody needs me to be neutral. I'm not neutral. I'm very pro money and pro investment, just to make it very clear. Anything that help me makes money and anything help me increase my wealth and investment, you know, I'm very pro that, and I wish all of you are as well. So let's not be too naive to think that, you know, we need to be neutral in our positions to assess things. Okay, so I think that's very important. So some people say that, Mr. Lu, you're so negative on the 2nd of April and then saying that there'll be a recession, and then suddenly things have changed. You know, you also change. Because situation had changed, we should change. I think we'll be stupid and naive, you know, and stubborn when market changes, you don't change accordingly. So I think it's very important. At that point of time, situation was very dire and it's very serious, right? And I have to look at it and say that was not a good situation. Now, if Donald Trump flips, so we must quickly flip along with it, right? And not miss out some of these opportunities. Those people that are not flexible with market changes, well, you know, will miss certain opportunities, right? So I'm not gonna, you know, I didn't catch the 10% dip. Okay, that's fine, but I'm not gonna miss a certain redeployment and rebalance opportunity, right? So actually, I think that this is quite important for me to move things quickly if market situation were to change. Another guy said that your prejudice and hatred for China have made the video illogical. I don't know why you all think that I have some hatred towards and prejudice towards China. Okay, I don't. I don't. I actually think that the Chinese economy and people are incredible. I have a lot of business with Chinese people, a lot. Okay, and I think I deal with Chinese more than most people do. Now, I have an issue with Chinese stock market. That's the only thing I have. I don't think the Chinese stock market is predictable, so I keep out of it, right? So I have nothing against the Chinese. In fact, I don't even have anything against the Chinese government, other than the fact that once upon a time they kidnapped and hold our Terex hostage. Okay, but okay, let bygones be bygone. But I do remember the incident, and so all Singaporeans should. Other than that, I don't have any issue with Chinese. Okay, I have lots of friends and businesses with Chinese. So I don't know. I don't know why you know, people have this strange illogical thinking. So in conclusion, I welcome comments of all sorts. Okay, I think we can agree, disagree, and some of you all agree with me. That's great. Okay, I think there's wisdom in diversity of views. I do look at some of your views and quite a lot of views, and I get wisdom from it, right? The only thing I ask everybody is please keep it civil. Okay, yeah. If you keep it civil, I think we all can have a good discussion. And of course, if people are not civil, you know, you can only be rude to me once, right? I will ban you from my channel. Okay. Other than that, thank you for joining me, and let's see whether anything interesting develops tonight. And I'll see you in a day or two. Bye bye.